Yo, Stoic 95 crew, what's good? Picture this. You're at a party, the room's buzzing, and there's this one guy who just stands out. He's not the loudest, not flashing cash, but everyone, men, women, even the bartender, gravitates toward him. He's confident, calm, and carries himself like he owns the place, but not in an arrogant way. That, my friends, is a high-value man. But here's the question: how do you become that guy? Today, we're breaking down 8 traits of a high-value man that'll level up your life, your relationships, and how the world sees you. And trust me, there's a story coming up about a guy named Rahim who went from invisible to unforgettable using these exact traits. Want to know how he did it? Stick around, because I'm about to drop some Stoic wisdom and practical tips that'll change the game for you. Let's dive in. Point 1. Self-mastery. Control your mind. Control your life. First up, a high-value man masters himself before trying to master the world. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let me tell you about Rahim. A few years back, Rahim was a mess, always chasing approval, getting rattled by rejection, whether it was a girl not texting back or a job interview gone south. He was stuck. Then he discovered Stoicism and realized the only thing he could control was his own mind. He started small, meditating for 5 minutes a day, journaling his thoughts to catch negative patterns. That's self-mastery, owning your emotions, not letting them own you. Here's the actionable tip: start a daily habit to train your mind. Try journaling one thing you're grateful for or one thought you need to let go of. It's like a gym workout for your brain. Rahim did this, and it was step 1 to transforming his life. But here's where it gets interesting. What's the next trait that made him magnetic? Trait number 2 is purpose. A high-value man isn't just drifting through life. He's got a mission. Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." Rahim figured this out the hard way. After a breakup, he was aimless, scrolling social media, feeling like a loser. Then he decided to focus on something bigger, building his own business. He wasn't rich overnight, but having a purpose gave him confidence. Women noticed, friends respected him, and he carried himself differently. A man with purpose is magnetic because he's not chasing validation. He's chasing his vision. Here's your challenge. What's one goal that lights you up? Maybe it's fitness, a side hustle, or mastering a skill. Write it down today and take one small step toward it. Rahim's purpose gave him direction, but the next trait? It's what made people trust him. Want to know what it is? Keep watching. Point 3. Integrity. Do what's right, even when it's hard. A high-value man lives by his values, no matter who's watching. Epictetus, another Stoic, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Back to Rahim. When he started his business, he faced a tough choice. A shady client offered him quick cash to cut corners. Most guys would have taken the deal, but Rahim said no. He stuck to his principles, even though it cost him short-term. Guess what? That client later referred him to bigger opportunities because they respected his honesty. Integrity builds trust, whether it's in dating, friendships, or work. Here's how you apply this. Next time you're tempted to take a shortcut, like lying to impress someone, pause and ask, "Is this who I want to be?" Choose the harder but honest path. It's not easy, but it's what separates high-value men from the rest. But hold up, the next trait is where Rahim became irresistible. Any guesses? Trait number 4 is confidence. Not the loud, cocky kind, but the quiet strength that draws people in. Stoicism teaches that true confidence comes from within, not from external validation. Rahim used to be the guy who'd shrink in social settings, overthinking every word. But after working on his self-mastery and purpose, he started carrying himself differently. He'd walk into a room, make eye contact, and speak with calm certainty. Women noticed, not because he was trying to impress them, but because he wasn't. Here's the kicker. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being okay with your imperfections. Rahim once bombed a date, spilled coffee, fumbled his words, but he laughed it off and kept the vibe chill. She ended up liking him more for it. Want to build this? Practice one confident habit. Stand tall, speak clearly, or start saying no when you mean it. Rahim's confidence turned heads, but how did he seal the deal? Let's wrap this up with the final traits. Point 5. Emotional resilience. Stay unshaken. The quiet, unshaken force within a man that keeps him centered while the world tests his limits. Rahim wasn't born with it. He built it, brick by brick, through failure. There were weeks when everything felt like it was falling apart. A woman he thought cared suddenly pulled away. A promising deal collapsed without warning, and friends he trusted grew distant. In those moments, most men spiral. They react. They plead. They chase. But Rahim didn't. He remembered something Seneca once said: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And so he began training his mind the way warriors train their bodies. Every morning, for just a minute, he'd sit still and imagine the worst: a breakup, a betrayal, a loss. Not to scare himself, but to prepare. Because when you've already faced it in your mind, life can't shake you so easily. This isn't cold detachment. It's self-mastery. Emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling, it's the control of it. It's how a man maintains eye contact when others look away, how he breathes slowly when someone tries to provoke him. Real strength isn't loud. It's still. It's not about avoiding storms. It's about becoming the kind of man who can walk straight through them without flinching. Point 6. Generosity. Lift others up. Generosity isn't about grand gestures or flashy displays of wealth. It's something quieter, deeper, something a man does not to prove himself, but because he's grounded in his own strength. A truly high-value man gives because he's already full. He doesn't need applause or recognition to feel valuable. That's the paradox. The man who gives without needing anything back is often the one who ends up respected, remembered, and quietly admired. Rahim wasn't always this way. He used to keep to himself, thinking survival meant looking out for number one. But over time, something shifted. He began offering his time to mentor younger guys in his neighborhood, men who were struggling with the same doubts and pressures he once faced. He didn't do it for praise. He did it because he remembered what it felt like to be lost, to have no one point the way. And that simple act, showing up for others, began to change not just them, but him. He walked differently. He spoke with more peace. Fulfillment, he realized, came not from taking, but from lifting. So this week, test yourself. Not with a grand promise, but with one real, quiet act. Help a friend without broadcasting it. Share advice without needing to be right. Give, and then let it go. That's the Stoic way. Not because you expect to be repaid, but because your character is your reward. Point 7. Discipline. Show up every day. Discipline isn't about grand gestures or dramatic sacrifices. It's about the quiet decision to show up when no one's watching. Every day, without applause. That's where real power is built. Take Rahim, for example. He wasn't born confident. In fact, just a year ago, he was drifting, scrolling endlessly, skipping workouts, promising himself he'd start tomorrow. But something clicked. He didn't start with an extreme routine. Number 5 a.m. wake-ups or cold plunges. Just 10 minutes of reading a day. Then a short workout. He didn't aim for perfection. He just kept showing up. And over time, that small commitment grew into something unshakable. Most men wait for motivation, but discipline doesn't wait. It begins in discomfort and grows in silence. And strangely, when you consistently do hard things, your mind starts to trust you. You walk taller, speak slower. You stop chasing chaos because you've already faced it in the mirror each morning. And women sense that. Not the discipline itself, but the quiet authority it creates. The steadiness in your eyes. The way you carry yourself. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. But that's why it works. Because while others flinch, you show up. And that consistency, even in the smallest habit, is the backbone of a high-value man. Point 8. Authenticity. Be yourself unapologetically. Authenticity is not about being loud, flashy, or constantly trying to prove something. It's about being unapologetically honest with who you are, even when it's uncomfortable. In a world where most people are busy curating a version of themselves for attention, the man who simply is, without pretense, becomes rare. And that rarity? That's what makes him magnetic. Rahim learned this the hard way. For years, he followed trends, mimicked the confidence of influencers, wore clothes he thought women would like, spoke in ways that weren't his own. But he always felt hollow inside, like he was borrowing energy that didn't belong to him. It wasn't until he sat with his discomfort, stripped everything away, and asked himself who he was without the noise, that everything changed. He started embracing his dry humor, his calm nature, his thoughtful silences. He stopped over-explaining himself in conversations. If he didn't vibe with someone, he didn't force connection. And ironically, once he stopped trying to be liked, people gravitated to him, especially women. Because there's something profoundly attractive about a man who doesn't need to prove his worth, who owns his space and speaks his truth without second-guessing it. This isn't some trick to get attention. It's the quiet power of living in alignment. That means recognizing what makes you different and choosing to lean into it instead of hide it. Maybe you're introverted. Maybe you overthink. Maybe your idea of a good night is reading a book instead of partying. Good. Own that. Write down one thing you deeply value about yourself. Not something performative, but something real, and honor it. Not for show, not to get approval, but because that is the ground you stand on. In the end, authenticity isn't about perfection. It's about presence. When you stop chasing who you think you should be, you finally give people the chance to love who you actually are. So, there you have it, Stoic 95 fam. 8 traits of a high-value man: self-mastery, purpose, integrity, confidence, resilience, generosity, discipline, and authenticity. These aren't just traits. They're a blueprint for becoming the man you're meant to be. Rahim went from lost to legendary by living these principles, and you can too. Start with one trait today. Maybe it's journaling for self-mastery or setting a small goal for purpose. Drop a comment below. Which of these traits are you working on, and what's your next step? I read every comment, so let's talk. If this video fired you up, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for more Stoic 95 content to level up your life. Until next time, stay stoic, stay strong, and keep building your high-value self.